In an exclusive one-on-one interview with comedy hype comedian guy Torry revealed that Russell Simmons told Bill Cosby, "I love you" at the Jackie Robinson Awards Gala back in 2011. Cosby responded by saying, "F out of my face," and shoulder bumped Simmons as he walked by. Now, according to the interview, Simmons openly expressed that Cosby was too judgmental of black folks. The story of Bill Cosby condemning young comedians for their use of foul language and subject matter on stage is one that's never ending. If you remember in the past, Cosby has also scolded Eddie Murphy and D.L. Hughley for the language in their comedy acts. Today we have our comedy hype analysts, Vanessa Fraction and Pierre, calling in to give their reactions. But first, let's take a look at this exclusive one-on-one clip.
Russell Simmons, now he would respond to Cosby and wrote an open letter some years ago, pretty much like defending Def Comedy Jam, Def Jam, what he was doing. Now Cosby would end up running into Russell Simmons. Have you heard of this story?
I want to know. I like to see that meeting.
So this is what happens according to this story. There was some type of benefit, and Russell knew that he wanted to apologize to Cosby for the stuff that he was saying that was out there. And this is what he said in an open letter, or in an open statement. "I wanted to find him," this is Russell, "I wanted to find him to apologize, to tell him I was sorry about my statements, to tell him that I loved him," Simmons explained. "Suddenly, I turned and he was behind the curtain, and I said, 'I love you.' And Cosby responded on some real hip hop shit, 'Get the fuck out my face.'"
I believe it.
Any surprise to that?
I'm not surprised at all. That was people who have met Bill Cosby. Even when you watch Jerry Seinfeld's Comedian stand-up documentary, and he goes to see Cosby, and Cosby is using language that he, faulted us for using on Def Comedy Jam. It's like, at least, we're honest about it. We're not. I love all forms of comedy. I'm not going to knock someone else's creativity either. If you want to use language in your stand-up, then use language in your stand-up. I'm not going to knock you for that. My only rule in stand-up is I had at Fat Tuesdays was no rape jokes.
Why?
I don't think any guy should get on stage and be joking about rape.
Can it, and this is interesting, the reason why, because I have conversations back in our studio about what can we cover and whatnot. But do you feel like men can be joked about getting raped? Is that a different thing?
I'm sure a lot of men are raped, especially in prison or as children, But if a woman, if he talks about it in that way, then you have, to me, who am I? I'm not no comedy czar or whatever, but yeah. I'm saying if you talk about your experience of being raped, that's different because you're telling your story. But I don't think any man should get on stage and joke about another man or even a woman getting raped. I just think it's low-hanging fruit, and it's nothing. People come to comedy shows to laugh or to take their mind off of the problems of the world, and a lot of women have been sexually assaulted out there. And they're coming to this place to get away from that, and here's some guy joking about it. Right. There's tons of punchlines that I could have used with using that reference that were funny, but I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. Because I have to be conscious of who's in the audience. And most of those comedy shows, there are women in the audience, and so many women are sexually assaulted and bury it so deep. I don't want to be the one to tear that Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
And I don't want anyone on the show that I'm hosting or the show that I'm headlining on talking about it, because now I have to go out and undo all that negative energy. It's not just because I just think it's insensitive, but at the same time, you just change the mood of the room.
Now, I know there's a lot of layers to this clip, so I want us to kind of, break it down a little bit. And Pierre, I'll start with you. What are your reactions to, Bill Cosby being so candid in his response? And also, do you think it kind of contradicts, the Cosby that we know him to be?
Well, you're right. It's a couple layers. First of all, Cosby's from Philadelphia. Now, the image he portrayed on film and what he did in stand-up, we both have a duality. A lot of us have a duality. We live a certain way and we outside our house a certain way. And sometimes, unfortunately, we think it's the same thing, and it's not. But with Cosby, you know, I'm not surprised. You know, at the end of the day, he a man. I mean, what he might, you know, we don't know how it affected him, what Russell Simmons said to him, you know, and for the years, the people may be talking about him, talking down to Cosby, acting crazy to Cosby. Sure, Cosby said what he said, but, you know, you don't know how, when someone else says something back to you, how you feel about it. You don't take the stuff just the way people think you should take it. Well, he should take it the same way everyone takes it. Everyone doesn't do it like that. So as far as I'm concerned, I can see Cosby talking reckless like that. And, you know, not saying he's valid. I can understand. You know, what's the name talked down to him about him, you know, talking down about comedians. So he felt a certain way. And when I'm surprised that he, I don't know. I'm surprised Cosby wouldn't have took the high road, even though he feels a certain way. He's learned how to take the high road in a lot of other situations. But I understand why he said what he said.
Absolutely. Now, Vanessa, I want you to chime in. I know this was back in 2011 when Cosby did, you know, speak out and kind of make those remarks. But I want to get your thoughts. You know, what are your reactions to it? Is it something that you're surprised by? And do you think it contradicts, you know, the Cosby that we know him to be?
I'm gonna start with saying there's a lot to that. Again, you know, I'm with Guy and Pierre where they said, I believe he said that you're a man first. I believe he came up in a time where there's a time and a place to behave in certain ways. There's a time and a place to speak in certain ways. And I feel like when Def Jam came out and that kind of thing, maybe he felt like it was fighting against that. I mean, it was going against everything that he fought for to show that we're more than the punchline. We're more than, you know what I'm saying? Education is key. You know what I'm saying? All these different things. And Def Jam, you know, to the naked eye may seem very ignorant, you know what I'm saying? Or what have you. And I can see where he would be offended, if you will, by that. There's generational issues that are going on. And I understand so totally what Bill is fighting for. And I believe we're going to talk more about that, Pierre, because there was a segment on your Panic Room that brings this up. But I understand his angst with Def Comedy Jam, but I understand Russell Simmons wanting to have that on. And I'm a very proud Def Comedy Jam alumni. I wanted to be on Def Comedy Jam when I saw people speaking their mind and being able to say stuff that you wouldn't be able to say normally, but able to crack people up instead of behind closed doors, but to crack millions of people up with the things that we say behind closed doors. The other important part about Def Comedy Jam and part of what connects with Bill is that it did help families. There are so many of us that are still thriving and have been able to take care of our families off of the springboard that Def Comedy Jam gave, because it gave more eyes on us and our talents. And you don't have to just stay with that kind of programming. I'm thankful that you're able to speak your mind on Def Comedy Jam, but I also like showing myself on network television and saying like, hey, I don't have to use this kind of colorful conversation, but I appreciate the opportunity to do so. And I also appreciate being able to show all of myself and show that I can also do corporate comedy or any other kind, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be the straight street stuff or the more blue comedy, you know, but it was a springboard and I understand the differences. That was a lot, but.
It happens in every generation. Generations are normally like 20 years. The generation before the generation don't understand the new generation. It happens every generation is like that. We get confused. So Cosby was one generation, Def Jam was another one, and it's just something that he was taught and changed. My father, when I first let him listen to Prince, he was like, what the hell is that? That ain't no James Brown, that ain't no Al Green, that's some garbage. And I look, Prince is one of the greatest, you know, musicians of all time. My father didn't understand that, you know, didn't understand Prince. It doesn't mean Prince was wrong. He's like, you know, sometimes I'm like my mother, sometimes I'm like my father, you know, Prince's songs. He's like, what the hell are you talking about? So generational, you get them, when that happens, you sometimes butt heads. And that happens a lot of times. 20 years is a major generational gap. And I think that's what happened with Cosby and Bill and Russell Simmons. Just didn't, you know, he didn't understand Def Jam. It's time to curse now.
Can I say, I think he understood it. I think he just disagreed with it. I think he still disagrees with it. You know what I mean? Like, but yes, to your point, it's a generational thing.
Yeah, now speaking of the iconic Def Jam, you know, there's also Fat Tuesday where Guy Torry is actually the creator of that. Now, I want to give our audience just a little bit of context of, you know, why we're seeing Guy Torry talk about this. Now, as we know, Guy Torry was under management of Russell Simmons along with some other comedians, and we know Russell Simmons was also the owner of Fat Farm. Now, that's what inspired the name Fat Tuesday for Guy Torry. Now, Guy Torry, in his response, you know, is pretty much saying he kind of feels that Bill Cosby is contradicting, you know, the person that he's portraying to be. So, Pierre, I'll come to you. What are your thoughts on Guy Torry's response to Bill Cosby, you know, being that vocal that way to Russell Simmons?
Well, I mean, let's be real. At the end of the day, Cosby's a nigga. He's a straight nigga from the street, like the rest of us and shit. From Philadelphia inner city, you've seen some of his background. You've seen what he's going through. You know, he messed with women on the side and all that. No matter what his image was in front of the camera, at the end of the day, he was a nigga from the streets. Okay, now he knew how to turn that off to make his money and show an image. Sometimes, you know, we do that. We smile outside our homes and we act totally different in our homes. You know what I'm saying? So that's what he chose to do. He said, you know what? I want to show, because I don't want America to think that black men and black women are just dumb, you know, foul mouth. So he said, I'm going this route to show y'all different. Well, that's great, Bill Cosby. We thank you for that. But there is, you know, a change coming. Changes are coming, and it came with a Def Jam. So, you know, it is what it is to me. I mean, you know, he just didn't understand what he didn't understand, or he didn't appreciate it. He didn't like it. Whatever. It's fine. You know, move on. It's moved on since. You know.
Now, Vanessa, I want to bring that same question to you. What are your thoughts on, you know, Guy Torry saying that he feels that Bill Cosby is being a little bit, you know, contradicting to who he portrays to be?
I'm not sure. I've struggled with this question. I'm a preacher's kid, you know, so I know there's a certain way, like the way that my father is at church is not necessarily the way that he was at home, nor do I think that it's proper for you to always show everything. You know what I mean? You're there for a certain purpose. And so whatever that profession is, then I'm going to give you that, you know what I'm saying? And so for Bill Cosby, I'm an entertainer. Am I supposed to show you my real self? I thought I was an actor, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever. So for us to believe in it, that just means he's good at what he does, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever. That's not necessarily his fault. I don't think he was necessarily being contradictory. I think he felt that, get the fuck out of my face, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever. If again, the things that he does for acting and his professionalism, that he wouldn't call for him to speak in that way or be that way. So I don't necessarily think that it's contradictory. I think that you just don't know people the way that you think you do.
Right. Yeah. And I think regardless of, you know, which side you're on, I believe that, you know, Cosby, we can't deny the impact that Cosby did make. Now, I know Vanessa kind of brought this up, so Pierre, I'll bring this next question to you. You know, we know that Cosby has made an impact, but we also know that a lot of people did feel away when Cosby spoke out against the way that Def Jam was. So do you think, you know, Cosby's downfall was because of how he critiqued the Black and the hip hop community?
You know, it's actually funny. I had my man Killer Mike on my podcast, Pierre's Panic Room on YouTube this week. It's out right now. You can see the clip right now. And he laid out a nice, you know, I don't know what you call it, a case that he even was ready to, he went to see him at a college. And I'm just going to tell a little bit of it. If you go online and watch the show, you can see it. And he's ready to you know, scoriate him. But when he heard him talking, he realized he couldn't do that for all the stuff that Cosby's done beforehand, you know, that Cosby has done positively. Yeah, you know, do we just take every time you say one thing, we change on you real quickly? Is that how we working? You know, please don't be like that, because we all have faults in our own lives, and we stumble. And I'm not saying he stumbled, Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby said what he said, you know. And if you didn't like it, okay, but that means you don't like nothing else behind that he did all the stuff to get there. So I don't have you know, he said what he said. I have a problem with it. It didn't hurt me. It didn't hurt my feelings. Okay, I'm still rocking the way I am. And look what happened. In time, people started doing what they're doing anyway. It's not the Cosby way no more. So I get how he felt, but no, didn't bother me.
Vanessa, I'll come to you next. What do you think? Do you think that Cosby's downfall was due to his criticism of the Black and the hip hop community?
I don't know if it was his downfall, but I do know that there was a disconnect, you know, and understandably so, you know what I mean? One of the things that was pointed out by Killer Mike, of course, go watch that interview on Pierre's Panic Room, but he wanted to be mad, but he was saying that we have such access to education and so forth, and some of the situations that we have ourselves in is because we have ourselves in them, you know, and there's freedom in education. You can expand yourself through that. And I think the disconnect comes with how you get to your end goal. You know what I mean? Even with the new thing of internet comedians coming out and different people coming out as influencers and things like that. I don't get upset or agitated because I can appreciate what is the end goal. You're trying to make a living for yourself as well. You're trying to provide for your family as well. You're trying to break generational curses through wealth for yourself as well. And so I think that if he could have approached it in a different way and understood that just like you're putting on a face and you're Cliff Huxtable, but then you're the real Bill Cosby who does fucked up shit. Well, maybe some people have dualities as well. And I put on this, what you may perceive as ignorance, you know what I mean? But at home, I'm actually quite smart. I've actually helped myself and my family and hired people and you know what I'm saying?
At the end of the day, the people he was excoriating were younger kids. That's not his demographic. He was an older man talking to the young kids. Maybe that message should have been pushed by somebody their age. Somebody 65 years old talking about some 15-year-old, 17-year-old. It's a disconnect. So yeah, he lost them, but there's a lot of people who are smart and know, so you know what? I understand you, Mr. Cosby. I understand what you're saying. I agree with you. Did the little hood rats and the little rat rats and stuff? Some of them, okay, I know in the comments. But did it bother them? Sure it did. Niggas wearing their pants down, cursing and doing all that kind of stuff. Yes, it did bother them. And so what? So what?
And you know, as I mentioned, I think there are so many layers here that we could continue this conversation because there are so many things I think that people were impacted or that people feel from it, and we could literally go on and on and on. But you heard from us, now we want to hear from you in the comments below. And be sure to stay tuned for the full interview from Guy Torry this week. And speaking of Guy Torry, Fat Tuesday just released their documentary, so be sure to check that out as well. For Comedy Hype News, I'm Symphony Thompson.
Well, be sure to check me out at the Arlington, Texas Improv. Come see me, Texas. Come on out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And check me out on Nappy Boy Radio podcast, of course.
And Delaware, come see your boy. You heard me this Saturday. That's right. March 26th. I got 2 shows, 8 and 10 o'clock at the House of Laughs in Delaware. Come holler at your boy. All right. And put it in the comments.
Put it in the comments.
Did you enjoy today's show? You can stop by comedyhype.com/shop to pick up your Comedy Hype News show mug today. And don't forget to always protect Black culture.